folklorist and historic fire researcher, John Horrigan. John has grew up in Marshfield in the summers. He summered here in Marshfield, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And now he's working for a publishing company, and he also does his historical lectures. And he approached me about this, and it really captured all our imaginations. We have over here on the table some original photos from the disastrous fire. We're very happy that no one lost their life, but many people lost their possessions. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to introduce John Horrigan. Please give him a hand.
Thank you very much. My largest lectures I've ever lectured in front of was at Madison Square Garden, where there was 10,000, and then there was one person at the Boston Public Library on a snowy day. That man didn't even speak English, so he didn't understand what I said. So, pleasure being here. As I want to thank, first of all, Chris Woods from Ventress. This was my library growing up, even when it was in that old house up the street there. But sight unseen, I said, here's what I want to do. It's time to put this fire out. It's an unforgettable fire of 66 years ago, and I saw this date creeping up on us, April 21st. And it started at 10 minutes of 2, and I think that now we're going to call all out in about an hour, okay, Chief? After this one, we're going to put this one to rest, because it has been an unforgettable fire, but unfortunately it's been a forgotten fire, a fire that decimated Brant Rock and changed the landscape. Before we go into this and dive into it, just a little bit about myself. As Chris said, I'm actually a pocket historian. That means that I'm unpublished. I don't have any letters preceding or following my name, but I can get in the room with any historian, and I'll last the fight. I'll get my nose bloody, but I can last out the fight. And I go and delve into archives. I'll go into books, newspaper articles, the internet, and go searching for a story. And then what I'll do is I'll take it, put it in contemporary terms. I'm a recording artist as well. You heard my voice doing a voiceover. I may even do a CD about this. I have enough material by recording all the fire material. And I also reach the blind. So I came into fire history because my specialty is weather. I'm a weather folklorist, a weather historian. And when you have weather, weather starts fires. And I came upon this unbelievable conflagration that impacted Brant Rock 66 years ago, almost to the hour. So that's where we're going to start today. You see the Duxbury came, and you have so many heroes in this story I have to tell you about. There's the gallant effort of Silas Wright, the fire chief at that time, who lost his house, whose men put up a gallant fight. You have Chief Pratt, the boys from Plymouth, who were the ones that put it down at Samoset Street. You have the state police chief, Jim Mahoney, who had the presence of mind to come screaming out from Maynard, Mass. And to get the police in gear and to help out the Marshfield police, who did a spectacular job. This was a firestorm. You had the Marshfield police that kept looters at bay, got people out of their houses. Nobody lost their lives, but I'm going to tell you, no one was injured. And you had 600 structures that were lost in this fire. So that's the safety personnel. And Chief Robbins, you stand very well instead of a great fire department over the past couple of hundred years that came to put this out. Yes. You have some goats in this story. The advisory committee. The advisory committee, every year they vote to burn marsh grass, okay? To do a pre-burn. So fires like this wouldn't happen. Well, they decided 2 nights before, on the 19th, that they were going to vote down that appropriation of $300, that they would not set aside that money, and they wouldn't burn the marsh grass. Well, the marsh grass went and burned. So they saved $300, and it cost them $1.25 million. Okay? Marshfield lost 15% of all its valuation when everything was said and done. And sir, your name is?
Ron.
Ron. Okay, Ron, we're going to go to the next one, page down to the slide there.
What do you do? Just
Okay.
see,
Oh, we got a rookie here. Okay. You're going to go here, page down.
Okay,
once,
yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So I'll just go like that. We'll do this. So, is that the first slide? The hamlets of Marshfield. I was thinking about how Marshfield's broken down, and I'll read them for the folks that can't see the slide. But in 1640, Edward Winslow broke out some districts: Brant Rock, Center Marshfield, Ferry Hill, Green Harbor, Fieldston, Marshfield Hill, or East Marshfield, North Marshfield, Hummerock, Ocean Bluff, Wrexham with a WR, Seaview, and Standish, which is in the Route 139 area. And then I started thinking, what are some other nicknames? And you can jump out if you can think of them. Holy City, you're going to hear me speak about that, was the name given to a cluster of tiny cottages around St. Anne's by the Sea, St. Anne's Church, which is up the street. That's the church that's sinking and cracking. Circa the late 1910s and early 1920s. Sunrise Beach was the name given to the area in Ocean Bluff in front of that. And again, correct me if you say, no, that's not the way I learned it, because I grew up over there. I'm all ears today. Greenbush was the name given in the late 19th century to the area west of Brant Rock on the opposite side of the Green Harbor River. Bluefish Point, or Blackman's Point, was tagged in the middle of the 19th century. Careswell, that's where I grew up, in the Daniel Fletcher Webster estate and the Walls and Flaherty property, was the name given to the area near Flaherty's Pond. That's the pond that I grew up fishing around in for generations. In fact, my great-grandmother, Gammy Flaherty's house, perished in a fire just before the Great Fire of 1941. Green Harbor Village, I don't know where that comes from. Duxfield was the name given to the area of the houses on the Duxbury-Marshfield line on the way to Duxbury Beach. Cedar Crest, which was the camp up on the hill. Burke's Beach, a name that originated in the late 1960s. And then Fieldston Lodge, where the fire began, or so one paper says. That's a new one. And then the Everson Village District, which again is another name for Ocean Bluff. Any more? Did I miss one?
Abington Village.
What was it?
Abington Village.
Abington Village.
Not wrong.
Abington Village.
Down by the pier.
Really? Down by the fair?
Pier.
Down by the pier. Abington Village.
No, Abington Village was, you know where the nuns have their place on the waterfront in Ocean Bluff. But back toward Fieldston is Abington Village. Until you come to Sunrise Beach.
Great. Here we go. I knew I'd pick one up. Okay, Ron, here we go.
Everybody lived there.
So we spoke about the hamlets of Marshfield, and you know, this little place in Brant Rock, you took a beating 2 nights ago. Chief, how you boys are out there, and men and women fighting that one with between the weather, the no-name storm of 91, to the fires that devastated Brant Rock. I mean, you're looking straight east, due east, and when a nor'easter comes, he comes on hard, as they say. Brant Rock Village was named for Brant geese, 2 islands early called Governor's Island, later Hewitt's Island and Branch's Island, together known as Spectacle Islands. Early landowners John Bradford, Christopher Winter, John Hewitt, and John Branch. This was the site of resort hotels, Pioneer Cottage, 1861, Churchill Hotel, 1866, the Brant Rock House in 1874, Ocean House in 1876, and the Fairview, 1877, the Peace Haven. And you're going to see next. Also, it's famous world-renowned because of the Pheasanton Tower, which was on Bluefish, Blackman's Point. The Pheasanton Tower, the first radio broadcast, was conducted by Canadian Reginald Pheasanton. Folks, I'm reading this for the benefit of the people outside. From his Brant Rock, Massachusetts station to ships at sea on Christmas Eve, 1906. Of course, he couldn't have done it without his wife, Helen, and his secretary, Miss Bent, and associate, Mr. Stein. And at 9 o'clock, Pheasanton began his broadcast playing Handel's Largo, presumably from his opera Circe or Xerxes, on an Edophone. Thomas Edison made that, and a phonograph. He then played Oh Holy Night on his violin, singing the last verse, and finally he read a selection from the book of Luke, Glory to God in the highest, in honor and peace to the men of goodwill. And the tower, there was a base marking the tower for some time. That's gone away. So as we mentioned, the area of devastation was Sunrise Beach, Ocean Bluff, and Brant Rock. Somebody said, why do you call it the Brant Rock Fire? And I heard it was known as the Ocean Bluff Fire. Well, the papers, the Post and the Record American, started calling it. One called it the Ocean Bluffs Fire, another paper called it the Ocean Bluff Fire, another paper called it the Brant Rock Fire. A historian picked it up in the 1960s, called it the Great Brant Rock Fire, and that's where it went. And when in actuality it was in Ocean Bluff.
Not one building in Brant Rock burned.
That's correct. Good point. So it was the Ocean Bluff Fire. The Green Bush Dike. I called it that as the Green Harbor River. In 1872, a dike was built, the road over which connected Brant Rock with Green Harbor. The project was the subject of heated debate among farmers who were eager to drain and work the land, and fishermen who claimed the dike would interrupt the river's tidal flow and silt in the mouth of Green Harbor. Despite the controversy, the dike was built, opening thousands of acres of lowland on which hundreds of families live today. Reason being is that may have saved Green Harbor when the fire came. Brant Rock, 1905, great place. One of the resorts over the turn of the century. Everybody came down, who was anybody. game down at Brant Rock. A lot of fun to be had, great food. When alcohol was prohibited, there was alcohol to have. Babe Ruth loved coming down here as a ball player. One of the things that he hated when he left the Red Sox is he couldn't come down here and get arrested twice. Fields, Ocean Bluff, 1914. Again, the beach changes. The sands leave one beach and they go to another beach up and down the coast of Marshfield. Humrock will have the sand, and Ocean Bluff will have the sand. 1914. So there were 6 great inns at Brant Rock, and they were the Fairview, built in 1874, burned down St. Patrick's Day, late that night, 1998, and again reopened in 2001. The Brant Rock House, built in 1874, torn down in 1938. Third one was the Ocean House, or the Brant Rock Theater, which was built in 1875 and lost to a fire on September 5th, 1973. And Chief, were you there at that one, or were you at the Rex fire?
Rex King.
Okay, the Rex fire, which took place in 78. The Pioneer Cottage, built in 1861, renamed the Atlantic House in 1879, which was lost in the Ocean Bluff Great Fire in 1941. And the Churchill, built in 1866, burned down in 1909. Churchill was a very luxurious hotel at that time. And finally, the Peace Haven, built in 1903 and raised in the 1940s. Basically talking about the Fairview Inn, it was called the Como Club at one time. So you have historical fires in Marshfield. You've got to start off with the T-Rock Hill. Is anybody familiar with T-Rock Hill area? Okay. The reason it was named that, because the British stores of tea were burned 3 days after the Boston Tea Party on December 19, 1773. Folks said, we want to get in on this. They pulled out the stores of British tea and they burned it on T-Rock Hill at the corner of Ocean Street and Moraine Street. 1860, the Phillips House, which was the site of a lightning strike, a deadly lightning strike in the 1700s. It burned down on July 9th in 1860, was rebuilt and burned down again. But for years, people thought that was the haunted house. In 1919, the Sears building at the end of Lamping Road burned. 1934, a convalescent home and chronic home changed from the old South Shore Hospital. It burned in March of 34. The Winslow House had a little fire in 1940. Today's fire, 1941. 1958, the roller skating rink, Cohee roller skating rink, preceded family skateland burn. 1960, Eli's Linen Store in Brant Rock. Good. All right, 1964, Webster Hotel at Landing Road and Carswell Street on November 16th. And again, if you see errata here, I'm a researcher. I was only a pup then. House fire on the island off of Dyke Road in 1970. Am I right about Estes? I'm guessing here. 1973, did Estes burn down? Estes Candy Kitchen next to Mummy's.
You're pretty close.
Around there.
Because I know the 1973, on September 5th, the Brant Rock Theater fire burned down. And I wonder, did that take Estes with it?
No, Estes was first.
Estes was first.
First, right.
If you want a little historical of that,
Yeah,
the current moderator
yeah.
was working in Estes Candy Kitchen when that fire started, in the popcorn machine that he was supposed to be watching.
Wow, because they made the best popcorn I ever tasted. Chief, have you
And most people in the room know who the moderator is, my much older brother. That's why he's not a firefighter.
Popcorn machine at Estes when it caught on fire.
You have this comedic ability.
There we go. 78, round in the south, the Marshfield Country Club had a fire. Assumption Church, was it 78? I have a question mark.
81.
81, thank you, thank you. Beautiful, this is why.
My son was supposed to be married there and it burned.
It was arson. Rexicana burned down September 6, 1978. Some people said it was very bad, some people said it was very good. So, 1979 and 89, Copeland and Sons Lumberyard. So those were the historical fires that I know of. Yes?
You missed one, the Daniel Webster's house.
Daniel Webster House.
Was back, when was that, 18 what?
78.
Was it 78?
I think so.
1860.
Yeah, and his
No,
daughter-in-law rebuilt it.
How about the Webster House?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the original.
1878, you're saying, right?
Have it in the file, let me look it up.
Okay,
You
good.
have a motel too. Hotel, lost that one.
Apologies for the light slides and the text here because of the light, the backdrop, plus I'm good at PowerPoint, as my wife says, though, but lousy with design. So if you look at the Great Fires in New England, 1623 Plymouth, I don't know if you know, but smoking in Plymouth was banned outdoors you were supposed to smoke indoors because embers would go off and burn the fat fruit. So here we are, we come full circle in almost 400 years. The Great Fire of 1676, it burned out Paul Revere's great-grandparents at a family house, devastated Boston. Again, I mentioned to the chief before you get here, my friend Stephanie Chereau, Boston on Fire, she wrote, marvelous book, will change your life if you're interested. She doesn't mention the Brant Rock Fire, but if you want a history of the fires in Boston, Boston on Fire, must have. 1711, that's the fire that burned Faneuil Hall, 1760. And then Damrell's Fire, 1872. There's a great DVD you want to get, Damrell's Fire it's called. It was shown on PBS, the Great Boston Fire of 1872. As you know, Boston, the landfill was taken Beacon Hill. They chopped off Beacon Hill, dumped it in the marshes, and made the Shawmut Peninsula, because Boston was basically like a lollipop with a promontory, with an isthmus, a road traveling from it. They filled it in, and then what they did with Boston after Damrell's Fire, they just threw it in the same thing they built on top of it. So a friend of mine, Dr. John Ebel, works at Western Observatory. He's the foremost authority on earthquakes in New England, says if we get a good shaker, you're going to see what's called liquefaction, here where the soil moves in that area. 1942, Coconut Grove, I believe 342 people perished in that. Again, Stephanie Chereau, I'm plugging her book, Steph's book, Coconut Grove. Paul Vanzerquin wrote, okay, great, oh, we'll be in line for that. 1973, I remember the Chelsea fire, driving on 128 and cars pulled over and seeing this huge plume of smoke. And of course, the disastrous Station Club fire. Some other expensive fires. Reason why I'm showing you this, because the Brant Rock Fire was the most expensive fire in the history of the South Shore up to that point. There was a fire in Nantasket that's not listed here in 1926. But in 1822, Haverhill had a $3 million loss. 1889, the Lincoln Street Fire, $6 million loss. 1889, Lynn, $5 million loss. 1908, Chelsea, $12 million loss. 1911, Bangor, Maine, $3.5 million loss. Okay? 1914, Salem, the most expensive fire in the history of New England up to this point, $14 million. Fall River, 1916, $2 million. Fall River, 1928, $4 million. And Nashua, New Hampshire, which was a devastating fire, of $5 million. All right, we're going to go on the time machine here. H.G. Wells, Herbert George said we can load it, pull it out of the closet. When we go on the time machine, just take your Dramamine. So away we go. There are some rules, though. You're going to turn off your cell phones, which I'm glad we have. Notice the fire exits, and I'm serious about this right here. Okay, that's our fire exit out here. Out and to the left are restrooms. Fasten your seatbelt, remain seated, keep your hands inside the vehicle. Questions at the end of the lecture, but you can violate that because you're all friendly here. Away we go. Here we go, Ron. So the time machine, another page down on it. You have to, here we go. And another one. One more. All right, and away we go. Let's see if this works. One more time. Here we go. Beautiful. 1 million BC. We're going back in time here. We're trying to get back to 1941. I'm trying to take you back to that morning. 3000 BC, 2000 BC. Aristotle, 1000 BC, 500 BC. Romans, 13th century Crusades. 1492, Columbus. He got lucky. Shakespeare, Plymouth Rock. Washington crossing the Delaware. 19th century, the American Indians, the Alamo, 1845. Civil War, 1864. And World War I, and we're right here, and one more. Who are them fellers? Anybody know? 1941 is known for two reasons, Pearl Harbor and these guys, Joltin' Joe and Teddy Ballgame. Teddy Ballgame, 406, Ted Williams that year. Joltin' Joe had his amazing 56-game hitting streak. Okay, so you get up that morning, April 21st, you get a cover of Time magazine. You have Yugoslavian General Dusan Simovic is on the cover of Time magazine. What are your papers saying that day? Well, you got three things. The Nazis are within 30 miles of Athens, Greece. 21 British troop transports with thousands drowned are lost. There's a firebomber on the loose of Matapan. There was a communist group meeting in Matapan. A fire happened, a couple of fires, and of course, it was another Red Scare. There were two bomb scares at Logan Airport about two airliners trying to take off, two turboprop airlines. Red Sox undefeated streak comes to an end. They go 5-1 at the hands of the Washington Senators, but While the fire was raging, they were beating the Washington Senators, and they went to 6-1. The Boston Braves pulled a 3-4 after beating Philadelphia on the 20th, the day of the fire. They're in Philadelphia, they beat them again, they go to 4-4. What's the weather say? It says sunny, dry, and windy, and we're going to get back to that in one moment. Major fires are striking all across the Commonwealth. Unprecedented, the amount of fires, because conditions were right. It was a west wind, gusting up to 40 miles per hour. It was dry. It was one of the driest months since 1888. You had tinderbox type construction, cottages next to one another. It made a perfect conditions for a fire. And there was a big one going on at Fort Dix, New Jersey. A pilot saw some firefighters that were surrounded by fire. They didn't even know it, but a pilot flying over told them, and they were able to get out. The newly formed National Guard would be called out to help out at fires at Camp Edwards and Sandwich Woods and at Fort Devens. And then the Germans were firebombing Plymouth, England, stepping up the tempo of World War II. So, this is what's going on in 1941, April 20th and April 21st. There are over 250 fires going in New England, unprecedented. You've got fires, here we go. The active fires: Acton, Ayr, Barnstable, Barry Plains, Belchertown, Billerica, Blackstone, Brimfield, Boxford, Burlington, Catawmet, Cohasset, Concord, Drake, Fiskdale, near Sturbridge. I'm going up there tonight and speaking. Groveland, Harvard, Holliston, Hopedale, Hingham, Ipswich, Lancaster, Leominster, Lexington, Maynard, Medway, Mendon, Methuen, Millville, Milton, New Braintree, North Andover, North Bridgewater, North Uxbridge, Norwell, Oakham, Pepperell, Randolph, Rutland, Sandwich, Shirley, Sutton, Swampscott, Topsfield, Upton, Westwood, Whitman, Winchendon, Wilmington, and Fort Devens, and of course in Marshfield. Acting Governor Horace Cahill, Governor Saltonstall was on leave, says 1 fire is being reported every 20 minutes. They were attributing them to school children, some of them. Over 250 fires were reported. All state woods are closed. The Quabbin Dam, and here's the key now, another one with all these fires. What happened in 1938 for the people that can't see the slides out here? Hurricane, a lot of timber laying down there, dry. 3 years later, it's dry, matchsticks can go right up. Pilots are asked to report and spot any fires they see from the air. And here's one that you don't see nowadays. People will be up and on. All hunting, trapping, fishing suspended. All firearms dispensation. You're not supposed to carry a firearm at all outside of your house, according to the government. Everybody said, okay. That was back when we had faith in each other. April 1941, the weather conditions. It's the driest year since 1888. It's a very dry month with less than an inch of rain in the last 4 weeks. The morning of April 21st was very windy with gusts of up to 40 miles per hour. Okay, so it began at about 10 minutes of 2 o'clock. It began at the junction. I have a photo up here of Plymouth and Ocean Street. And you can see the boatyard. They used to park the buses there. Do you know what's the name of that restaurant now that's at the corner? Horrigan. Is it a good restaurant? Good. All right, that's in one more. And I found this very interesting because the little flag there at this centerpiece, and I always wondered if that's where it could have began. Because as I mentioned, the Appropriations Committee decided to take back the $300 to burn the marsh grass there, and that's where it started. Oops, what happened there, Rob?
Trying to go back.
Okay, on here. False start, on the offense. We're going to go back here. Page up will get you lost. It's okay. You hit end. That's what happened.
Don't let him play with his toys.
He's doing all right. He's a rookie. He's doing okay, though. Okay, so, and look at that. No harm, no foul. Okay, so it starts at about 10 minutes of 2. There's a west wind blowing. The Boston Post says, and Chief will chuckle at this, that the fire started because the hot sun went through some broken bottle of glass and started the fire. Now, the only time that ever happened was on a Lassie episode. And then another person says, which was probably happened, somebody carelessly flicked a cigarette out the window. I tend to think, I'm not a fire investigator. I just think that maybe there might have been a kid playing with matches because kids were known to play in that area. Am I right, folks, at that area? Anybody grow up in that area that was a favorite hangout of kids in that marsh area? Anybody substantiate
Was that
that?
school vacation week too?
I'm not sure.
Not either.
I'm not sure if they even had school vacation in April.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, did they? Okay, in April? Okay. Okay. I'm
What
not
day
sure.
was it?
Yes, I was.
On Monday.
Monday,
yeah.
No, okay.
Vacation could have been the week before, I can't remember.
I was in school, so
Okay, so the fire begins. I'm going to show you a line of houses where it began. It moves with unprecedented speed. All out wasn't called until 27 hours later the next day. But just to give you one idea, St. Anne's by the Sea, the window started melting, and the light around the middle window started melting, and people said it literally exploded. Flames, they said, shot 100 feet in the air, and there weren't that many combustibles. The casino, the old casino, went up, they swear, in 2 minutes. The Ocean Bluff house went up in 5 minutes. There are people there, Officer John Golly, he's shopping with his wife in Plymouth. And they see the pillar of smoke, and I have another story I'm going to relay about that. Oh, what's that? It's Marshfield as they drive back. Must be Marshfield, must be, I think it's Brant Rock. Oh my, it's our neighborhood. So they drive into their driveway, and they see the fire down the street. They're loading stuff in. All of a sudden, the fire jumps, and their house is gone. He had to put gas in the car, drive it through a fence, up and over a sidewalk to get out of there. Another woman came running out of her house. She had a wet kerchief around her hat. The only injuries that were received, and there was not a reported smoke inhalation injury, but everybody had singed eyebrows. She had singed eyebrows and singed eyelashes. People lost everything. There were some people who were lucky. Of the 200 residents that lost their homes, about 20 full-time residents lost their homes. The rest were summer cottages. They got their stuff out and they held it in a central area and just watched the whole thing go up. And the firefighters were you'll see a picture later, they were taking time out at Starrett's, Wright and Starrett's, Silas Wright, the firefighter, Gordon Starrett, the postmaster.
That's right.
Yes, and they were there drinking sodas, and all of a sudden, poof, fire just jumped in there. Molten lead was splashing off the wires. The fire was so hot, off the lead wires. In fact, some of the other heroes I want to mention, people from the Brockton Gas Company and the Plymouth Electric Company, were trying to get out ahead of the fire, pulling out meters, shutting off the electricity, shutting off the gas, and of course collect the copper wire, because that was very valuable.
Still is.
Yeah, so it is. And they lost their battle as the fire came racing up. In all, 17 blocks were consumed, and literally streets would go up in a matter of minutes. And there was a west wind, and people could not believe how quickly this conflagration moved. So folks, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to show a couple of pictures here. You can see this is the beginning of the houses jumping. People are curiously looking. But the house is just... And again, you have to understand, especially in an area known as Holy City, which was just behind St. Anne's by the Sea Church, small cottages right next to each other, flimsily constructed. When one went, the rest went, and the wind would carry the sparks. Okay, now there was only one building that didn't get burned. Does anybody know what that building was? Fire station, Combo 1, on Saginaw, I believe. Is that still the same one, Chief? It's on Massasoit. But the old one was on Saginaw, or some of the newspapers said. Is that true, or it's always been on Massasoit? It's always been on Massasoit. But yeah, the fire station survived that one.
St. Anne's Church, was all fieldstone, or beach stone, too.
Oh, is it?
Burned from inside out. The
That's
roof was-
exactly right.
The roof was heavy slate, because it wasn't asphalt shingles, heavy slate shingles.
I forgot to ask, could I have a show of hands who people were on hand and saw the fire? I'm sorry, did anybody see the
We got a
fire?
guy that fought it. Tim Henderson fought it, fireman.
Mr. Henderson?
Yeah.
Wow, great. So the two gentlemen, anybody out here was there, saw the fire? So we have two people that actually saw the fire. And you saw three people that saw the fire, wonderful. Wow, okay, great. My dad remembers that night because they were setting backfires, and some of the backfires backfired because they ignited some of the structures. And my dad remembers coming, getting blocked off, I guess at the corner of Carswell Canal, and seeing, he called it a blood red sky of the glow. And of course, the smoke could be seen from as far south as Nantucket. As far east as Provincetown. I have an account of even further than Provincetown. As far north as the North Shore, Lynn, Boston, of course. I have an account of a fisherman coming in, sees the column of smoke, Boston's on fire. He's way out. No, that's Situate. No, that's Marshfield. No, that's my house. Imagine the feeling that man came in as he saw his entire neighborhood go up in flames. Mr. Silas Wright, the fire chief, lost his house. Gordon Starrett, the postmaster, lost his house. They lost their store. Winship's drugstore, gone. 2 hotels, major casino. There are about 600 structures that were lost, 446 of them being houses. Again, I apologize, these are copies of the newspaper, and I'm going to be passing around momentarily. Nancy, who is the archivist here at the library, has put up with me and my voiceovers in the last 4 research, and she came up with a treasure trove of photographs, so this is real cool stuff. I love the cat one, but we're going to, I don't know how you want to handle that, if I should hold them up, maybe, and then show people, I think would probably be best, as opposed to people handling them. They're 66 years old, and we really want to give them their due so other generations can enjoy them. Okay, Ron? And again, fires went down. They didn't know how many houses went down for a few weeks because they went around and counted chimneys. Yep. Okay. Little girl. Imagine the impact of you were a little girl, you were a little boy at that time. How seeing that monster roar in front of you. I mean, did you lose your home?
No, no, I did not.
Okay. No.
That was a summer resort, people didn't live there, and I don't believe there were over 60 people living there at the time of the fire. There's a very small amount of people living there.
Right. Right. There's a man by the name of Charles Lowell who lost 19 houses.
Yeah, there was right by the fire station.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
That's Lowell Street there too.
You see, gentlemen, here, look at the columns of fires. There are flames reported to be 100 feet high. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, Chief. 100 feet is attainable without combustibles, but fueled by a west wind, a hot west wind. It was unseasonably warm that April. Bang, bang, bang. And then these poor people, the Pratts, okay, with their young baby. They had moved from Waltham to Marshfield 3 days before. Everything gone. Gone. Again, families coming down the next day looking at the destruction, devastation of the... They lost everything. Now, again, you mentioned summer cottages, and we all know summer cottages didn't have much in them. I mean, they had some simple furniture and bedding because people would pack them up and go north with them. I know there was a rivalry between the residents and the summer people, but they did bring in tax money and their bad habits, right? St. Anne's by the Sea. Again, there it is. Mass was held in the Fieldston Ballroom for the rest of the year and into 1942. But as you mentioned, sir, it exploded from the inside out.
Interesting thing at Fieldston, they had a mass. Right over the altar was the sign that said beer, an arrow pointing down.
Beer. Wow. Well, beer was big in this fire. You know why? You know why? Because the bottles of beer in the old casino liquor store, the bottles and cans they were called shooting off fusillades of missiles. You'll see a graphic there, like hand grenades. They were spouting 30 feet in the air. But not only that, it was scalding hot beer. Right? So when people were warned when they walked by, watch out because cans would go shooting by them, something like a Red Sox Yankee game last night. Again, the wires melted, the lead holding up the wires, poles. There was only one main telephone wire into that area at that time. And so it was difficult. The lines were jammed, people calling in, trying to figure out, was it my house? People trying to get in. They had to park over a mile away. The police did a good job holding them at bay. There was no looting or little looting reported, and people had to walk in to see the devastation. The 3 things that if you have to look back at what caused the fire, number 1, it was dry. Number 2, they didn't do the marsh grass burning. Number 3, they had incredibly poor equipment. The firefighters were undermanned and under-equipped, and the water pressure was terrible, and that's a death knell, Chief, as you know. So when the other departments came racing in, Duxbury was the only one that lost a truck. In fact, its tires exploded. Boom, boom, boom. And they'd be coupling up their hoses, and all of a sudden the fire would be on them from another side. They'd drop their hoses, lose the hoses. So they lost their equipment. They lost the hydrant, the pressure wasn't there, and they were fighting literally a losing battle. And it was when the wind shifted. Zeus, he set it up already, shifted the Zephyrs, and it went all out. It was halted by the guys from Plymouth at Samoset. Again, counting chimneys. If you didn't have an ocean view before an ocean bluff, you did after the fire. Fires are always devastating psychologically. They affect people for the rest of their lives. But again, what a miracle that no one lost their lives, no one was injured. the casino fireplace. So, and again, the water tower, I apologize for the poor quality of these photographs. I think there was 339,000 gallons that was held in that water tower. So old engine 3, known as the Old Girl. That's Duxbury. They're working on that's 1942. That's a misprint. I should say 1941. But Old Girl was the one you'll see in a moment. Was the one that was lost. And there's a car right there. A gentleman looking, saying, "Actually, I'm sorry. That is Old Girl. That's the fire hose right there. See, that's Old Girl right there. Gone. They had to abandon. Fire just jumped them. Some people with their belongings watching the fire. This is late in the afternoon. For all intent and purpose, it had burned out after 5 o'clock, but they've got their bedding there. And another thing I want to mention here is the outpouring of love and sympathy for the neighbors of Brant Rock and Marshfield. All these people by that night had places to go, place to stay. Some families stayed for months with other families because they had nowhere else to go. There was a woman by the name of Mrs. Brilliant. I know if that name rings a bell. She let her fire insurance lapse 3 days before. And you're not talking about wealthy people here. They're losing everything. So there.
Isn't she the one that too that brought out her husband's ashes at the last minute? He'd been cremated apparently. That was in some newspaper.
No, I didn't see that.
Mrs. Brilliant.
Really? Interesting.
She's sitting right there. That's her son, Reginald,
Right here?
and Charlie.
Wow.
Hey, Billy,
Hey,
tell them a story about your bicycle.
Oh, please, let's hear it, Billy. Come on.
it got burned up because I parked it near the end of the fire against the house. And I had Johnny Stables was in here, Sully's bike, and he parked it there too, and Sully's bike was burned up.
Wow.
By the time we thought of him, the fire had gone by, and there was nothing but a frame there.
They had to run home to get shoes because they were barefoot at the time.
Wow. How are your eyebrows doing? All right, all right.
They're fine, it's the rest of it.
Yeah. Oh. Can I ask you, I kept seeing this McAdam Road. What's McAdam Road? Is that a name of a road?
It's Adam Road.
Okay, because in the papers they're saying McAdam Road. Apparently, they were saying if you were so hot, if you walked on it, the tar was sticking to the bottom of your feet.
Possible.
It was sticking to the fire trucks would pull up and they'd sag because the tar that they used there.
Wasn't that called macadam?
Macadam is what they put on the
That's
road.
the service.
Oh, it's called McAdam. Okay, thank you. So there we go. McAdam Surface. Thank you. I am not an asphalt man.
Generic term.
It's a generic McAdam. Okay, that's just a loose granular.
It's tar, it's
Tar.
blacktop. It's the same thing as McAdam.
Okay, thank you, learn that. A house on fire here, another one, you can just see the devastation. Chief, can I just ask you, from just looking at some of these photographs, does it tell you what, heavy wind, does it tell you mostly wood frame? Can you tell by just looking at a photograph of flames what type of fire it
The
is?
majority of those houses are what we call balloon frame. Means that when they built that house, from the foundation level to the attic, it's one stud. So once the fire gets in, it races through the building. But you have tremendous exposure from the wind blowing the fire toward it. It's preheating the house, so when the fire gets there, it goes off like that. And then you have separation. We like to see a minimum of 30 feet. Those houses aren't 30 feet apart. So that once one gets going, it gives the radiant heat to the next one, it just keeps going down the line. And that's why you saw so much devastation in that short period of time. And you're saying a 100-foot flame pipe, that's possible.
Okay.
Because you get that column of superheated gas above the house that can be burning because it's filled with flammable gas, particularly carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide burns, so you could have 100 flame pipe.
Wow. Aerial shots, they said it looked like a dogfight at some point. Maybe you guys can verify that all the planes up there. There was a big flying boat, I guess, circling around. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember seeing any.
Okay, there was a big flying. The Coast Guard came in to help out. Do you remember seeing any Coast Guard guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but they said there was a big flying boat at one point, so. Again, the people, they were well behaved. They got out of the firefighters' way. In fact, they ran in front of the firefighters because the firefighters would fight it, and the fire would be right on them. Just some embers in the eye. Dr. McEnroe is looking at an ember in an eye or a singed eyebrow. Again, as the chief had mentioned, boom, combustible. Tongues of fire, pennants of fire. Houses would go up one after another after another. That's another picture of the old girl at their barn and looking at the devastation. This is Mr. Charles Bennett. Anybody know him?
Yeah,
Mr. Charles Bennett and look at Mrs. Bennett. She is just, look at,
that's
Right.
right now.
right. And,
Start to about 200 feet from his house.
oh, okay. This now is Charlie Starrett, who was the postmaster, and Byron Hall, who was an inspector. And they're looking at the safe in the post office. It was Beach Bluff Post Office. Yeah, in the Starrett's, Silas, Wright and Starrett's.
They set up a post office today.
In Winship's Drugstore, of course, I remember getting, so I used to love going there. That was fully stocked for the summer, pharmacy, when that went up. Again, the flames just jumped. There was no stopping this. It was going to run to the sea. Aerial shot there. Firefighters. Here's the firefighters. They're drinking coffee and everything. This is in Wright and Starrett's. Moments later, gone. Got a nickel bottle of Coke. And there you go. There are the chimneys, one after another after another. There's St. Anne's right here. Chimney, chimney, chimney. Just utter destruction. What's the name of the street that goes to? That's Ocean, right?
Ocean.
Yeah, and that's for Foster. Foster takes a beating, doesn't it? Then the aerial shot. The house just collapsed. It's just amazing that not only nobody died, nobody got hurt. There was an unrelated heart attack reported about this. I forget this gentleman's name, but the Constellation, he is lawnmower, how much lawn to mow. Again, the devastation from ground level while the chimney's sticking up. Aerial shot, just showing one after another, just decimating the area and wiping out 17 blocks. In all, it was 2 square miles. If you put all the houses next to each other, it was 1 square mile. So that just shows how close they were together. I don't know the name. Is this Mrs. Brilliant? No.
Yes,
Is it Mrs. Brilliant?
Charlie's the son and Puggy Reginald.
A bottle of milk, a couple of bottles of milk, that's all they got out of there. But imagine that. In your house, the next day, you've got nothing. Happened to any one of us. And again, there's a shot looking north. Actually, it's looking north, where the fire would end up at San Jose. Just some other images. I call them images of desperation. Just showing the sunlight, you know that this is early on in the fire. Just looking at the angle of the sun. And as you get later on in the afternoon, it was out. And then it ended just after 5 o'clock at the corner of Ocean and Samoset. That's where Pratt and his boys halted it and put a run at it, and the wind chipped it. Just the tip of Samoset was burned there. And this is what it looks like today. Anybody live up there right now? In this area, you'll see some of the streets. I'm going to read them off to you, but I'd like to know if you live there now, because there's a strange rumor that I've heard now. I don't know. Okay, so Gone with the Wind and Sparks. They were the casino. St. Anne's by the Sea. Ocean Bluff House or Ocean Bluff Hotel. The Bristol Bakery. Beach and Ocean Variety Store. It was on the beach corner of Beach and Ocean Street. Did it have a name, you guys? Wright and Starrett Store, which was the police and fire arrest station. The Beach Bluff Post Office, Winship's Drugstore, Shore Haven Hotel, First National Store. Was that a supermarket?
Only in the summer.
Only in the summer. Totten's Beauty Parlor,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
newly renovated, and of course the fire station was spared. So let's look at some bullets here. No deaths or major injuries. One heart attack, some smoke inhalation, many singed eyebrows. 2 square miles burned from 6th and Ocean Street to Samoset. Holy City, Sunrise Beach and Marshfield Beach wiped out. Fieldston and Wrexham were spared. 446 houses, 96 garages, 12 stores, 2 hotels, a casino, church, and a post office were consumed. 15% of Marshfield's total value was wiped out, or $1.25 million. Today, that would probably be close to 125. I'd have to put a 10x on that. Zoning laws would be recodified. Lot space, building materials, etc., etc. Chief if you look at the zoning laws, there weren't any zoning laws back then. You could literally build in your backyard.
And they had a lot of encroachment of brush. There wasn't separation of 30 feet, 30 feet distance from the brush line to the building. There wasn't that separation, so once it got into the brush, it was easily get into the building.
As I mentioned about the popping beer bottles, and the casino became a fusillade of missiles. Smoke was seen from Provincetown, Boston, Cape Cod. Told us about that inbound fishing vessel, thought it was Boston, then situated within Brant Rock. The glow in that sky, as my dad told me, was a blood red. Gawkers and residents were forced to walk a few miles to see it. Now you can't see it now, it didn't make it, but some say that birds don't nest in the area anymore and that butterflies are rare. That's the wives' tale. Anybody, can you corroborate that? Have you heard anything like that? That birds don't nest in the area and you'll see the streets in it. So that's the wives' tale I want to ask about. I had heard that, but a resident told me there. So here are the responding fire departments. You got Kingston, Duxbury, Falmouth, Bourne, Brockton, Norwell, Cohasset, Situate, Rockland, Whitman, Abington, Plymouth, Shawnee Forest, Miles Standard State Forest, Hanover, Middleborough, State Conservation Department, Bridgewater, Weymouth, Hingham, Braintree, Randolph, Holbrook. All did a stellar job. I think we owe a round of applause to them. Up to 40 miles away. All that wasn't even called until noon the next day on that, but
And there was no expressway for them to get here either.
that's right. Good point. Good point. And here's the order of the fire. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. If you live here, if you live on these streets, I'd love to hear it from you. Ocean Street, 6th Road, 5th Road, 4th Road, 3rd Road, 2nd Road, 1st Road, Beach Avenue, Everson Village District, South Abington Avenue, Shepherd Avenue, Seminole Street, Secundit Street, Setauket Street, Saginaw Street, Chickatawbut Street, Massasoit Street, Chalmette Street, partial, and the tip of Samoset before it was taken down.
6th Road, that's where it crossed Ocean Street.
Right.
It was coming up from my side and jumped there. Those block of those stores that are there between 6th and 8th, that's still there.
It's good to know that. When I researched this, my name being Horrigan, I found it quite ironic that I found, and they're no relation, a Mary Horrigan lost her house on Ocean Street, and a Nona Horrigan from Brockton lost her house, so serendipity, I guess.
Mary Horrigan lived on 4th Road, in case you want to know.
Okay. But, yeah, amazing. It's, talk about coincidences.
She was one of the first persons to build up again, too.
Harold Lowell, I heard 19 buildings, he said 9 buildings here. Here's some of the names here, the Bergmans, Keene, Bennett, Brown, Pierce, Briggs, Sturdivant, Wormer, Eddles, Kelleher. These names ring the bell?
Sure.
And now, just everybody know where the monument is, right? Where the little snow monument is? Nobody knows where that is, do you? Okay, here's your thing. Why don't y'all stop by? On the way up, along the front, is it open now? I haven't been by the water. I know you guys got pounded there from the storm the other night. But just across the street from St. Anne's, you'll see a beautiful little park at the junction of Foster and Ocean, okay? And whoever keeps it up, good job, and you'll see the monument, and I think it's a testimony that we'll never forget about this unforgettable fire. And again, stop by there today. It's April 21st. Why not? And just say thanks, because this Brant Rock and Marshfield, to me, has always been a special place. So I want to thank you very much. You've been very patient. That's the end of my lecture today.
Great presenter.
I will field questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, I think it was great that somebody that were actually there. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come down there to meet some of you folks that actually lived through it. Yes?
What you're referring to the casino, I don't know where that was.
Wherever the
It's
Ocean
there
Bluff
now,
Post Office is.
I think you should publish.
I should publish. Well, a couple of things. Number one is I have severe carpal tunnel from typing. And number two is I'm going to probably record an audio CD. Some of you folks came in and you heard my voiceovers of newspapers. Nancy's put up with me and Chris coming down as I read the newspapers, but I talked with a producer. I have another CD that I'm just releasing on New England earthquakes, so I may release a CD. Because it's amazing. I have 70 minutes of audio material just in the Brant Rock Fire alone. I've got another 20 minutes on the Wrexham Fire, another 10 minutes on the Brant Rock Theater Fire, And I haven't even gotten into the weather element, so. Does anybody else have any questions or? Yes?
Can you tell me where that water tower was? There were a couple of pictures of the big water tower.
Where's the water tower?
It was,
Where was it? Do you remember
On
that?
Tower Avenue, what was called today Tower Avenue.
There's another
well,
one.
it was at, like, right where the park is? Is
You
it,
don't really run it, so.
it was right
Yeah, right
there.
Right there.
And there was
Well,
another
okay,
picture,
here's,
yeah, by the
I
same.
think, because this is Ocean Street, right, and this is St. Anne's, and I think we're looking down towards where the fire started, right? Am I right? No, no, looking the other way. So it's up towards Green Harbor.
Great Brant Rock Fire.
Wow.
There's a fire tower, there's a tower there now, water.
And while I have you all here, I want to ask longtime residents here a couple of stories. My dad said during World War II there was a blackout. Okay, you had to paint your headlights, pull your shades down, and that you could literally see ships offshore burning. Okay, you could see the glow of them, and on one account, unfortunately, I don't mean to be morbid here, bodies washed ashore. My question is, I had heard of a rumor, and I've been studying U-boat and Soviet submarine incursions along the North Atlantic coast from 1918 through the present day. I'm interested in Soviets tripping Strategic Air Command Station, etc. But there's a rumor, and again, we know that a U-boat surfaced in 1918 down the Cape and sank a tugboat, the Perth Amboy. If you look that up, it happened in 19, a U-boat. Rumor has it that a U-boat surfaced off the coast of Humrock. I've heard Scituate, I've heard Plymouth, shot down a balloon in front of bathers, and I want to put this circa 1942, submerged and headed out. Has anybody heard that story?
No.
Okay. There's one for the ages that know.
It's very possible, because a lot of that stuff was suppressed during the war.
Sure,
because-
like Japanese balloon bombs, for
Right,
instance.
right.
Here's another one. That's okay, I'll take that. I'm gonna put that in my lunchbox and take that home with me. Here's another one. That rumor had it that a German U-boat had landed a raft of a couple of soldiers scouting out or reconnoitering Gurnett Point. They got back onto the U-boat and went out to sea. And that is loosely based, the Russians are coming, the movie is based upon that incident. Is that true, or is this, and again, is that poppycock? Did you ever hear that?
They landed someplace, but it wasn't around here. I don't believe.
Okay.
During the war, when I was, say 10, 11, 12, you used to walk the beach and be able to pick up all the sea rations that had come ashore.
They're from ships that were sank.
Ships that, someplace,
There you go, yeah, right, they were sank, yeah. I know that there are also torpedo runs. There are British Lend-Lease pilots would practice torpedo runs off of Brant Rock. My dad tells me, does anybody know what a B-36 is? It's an enormous aircraft with 4 engines to the rear. They said it flew so low at Brant Rock, he was at the Fairview, that it looked like it dipped underneath. And they used to fly low, all the Navy boys, to see the Burroughs girls sunbathe in the backyard. So that's another story on another time. And then I guess there was he saw a dauntless cartwheel into the ocean. The pilot got a little too hot dog, a little too cowboy, and he lost